Today's Riverside Chat is a tribute to Sacramento radio legend Cary Nosler, who went by Captain Carrot because he was a nutrition expert and gave health tips in his TV and radio syndicated features. He was actually on CBS TV back in the late 70s on a show called PM Magazine, in which he had a regular health feature. He was one of the original members of KZAP when the station launched in 1968 as a freeform station. Carrie passed away on December 17th at the age of 79. Luckily, I was able to interview him on video back in 2015 in Old Sacramento at the Sacramento Music Festival. And here's a little bit of that interview. So here we are at Sacramento Music Festival 2015. Alex Cosper with Cary Nosler. Captain Carrot.
Howdy, Alex.
One of the original KZAPers.
Indeed.
So that's quite an amazing thing. We did an interview back in 2004 that I called The Legend of KZAP, and you were part of it. And it was a lot of great information, a wealth of freeform knowledge.
Yeah, it was interesting. You know, a lot of people were in it for different reasons. I was probably the weakest member of the group as far as actual music knowledge. I was there more because of the tenor of the times. It was a very, well, almost overnight things changed in the way people related to each other, the kind of social movements that were going on, and for me it was a time of exploration, and it just suited me fine because I was on that search. I was on a quest, you know, to try to figure out who I was, where I was going, why I was doing what I was doing. And music to me signaled kind of to me it was the ambiance, it was the backdrop to a movement. And so my disc jockey days didn't really last that long, maybe a year and a half. And I realized that I was part of the movement, but that wasn't the only thing for me, the music.
It fused into Captain Carrot.
Well, I was into health anyway.
Right.
That's what I wanted to do. I was on a spiritual health quest, a health quest, you know. And at that time, everybody was into something. When you talk to people who say, hey man, what are you into? You know, and it was no big deal whether you're into natural foods or into a commune or into music, whatever. Everyone just acknowledged that there was a lot going on, and that suited me fine.
What was amazing is that you kind of were ahead of the whole organic movement in a sense, because you were talking about this back in the late 60s, and really the organic movement, it's only been in the past decade that it really skyrocketed into popularity.
Well, the seeds were sown then, with myself and a lot of other people. A lot of the people in the herbal movement today and positions of authority, as it were just people, you know, fledgling herbalists starting out, trying to figure out what was going on. We had an idea what we thought was right, but there was really not much to back it up other than our intrinsic gut feeling that this was the right thing to do. My first sponsor on KZAP was the Sacramento Real Food Company, which was the harbinger, again, of this whole natural movement, as opposed to a, quote, health store, which at the time just sold vitamins, and a natural food store where they say, we want to get back to the land. We want to find out what's going on. You know, where's our food coming from? What are we going to do about this stuff? So it was kind of a concomitant move, and it's that thing that you're talking about that's led to stuff like, you know, Whole Foods or Sprouts, you know, where now everybody's kind of into it. It's really interesting, you know, it's just part of what is.
Do you think it's because people got so tired of all the synthetic stuff in the world and all the political nonsense and everything that just isn't real, that people wanted to get back to the real world?
Well, that's definitely, that was the emphasis in the beginning. That was the impetus. They wanted to get rid of all that other stuff. They wanted to find what was, quote, natural, organic, Earth Day, whatever you happen, you know. It was still being defined at that time. But I had the platform at KZAP. I mean, when I started in music, but then I came back, and that's where I think it was Captain Carrot's Fantasy, what was it called? The Organic Times. Organic Times. You know, and we would do a show every day. Now, not too many stations would interrupt a half hour of music, you know, to bring someone talking about health, but it was because that was part of the ambiance of the age, part of KZAP's appeal, is, you know, its reach at the time.
Would you figure out ways to actually turn song titles into stories that went along with health food?
No. Dennis Newhall did that.
Okay.
Newhall would interview me, and every day after I got to talking, he'd try to find music that had something to do with it. And believe me, when you're somehow got onto things about intestinal cleaning, whatever we would get into, somehow Dennis would try to find music that would go with it. So that was always his big challenge, and he was early up to it.
You could always play classical music or instrumental and just say that's the soundtrack to what you're talking about.
Whatever I did, he found it. That's all I could say. He found it. That went on for some time. I'd do 15 minutes of talk, and then I'd open the phones. And I never, ever remember, we never had a screener. I never had a really bad call. And there was always people responding. I just take it on faith that when I gave out the number, somebody would call. And they did. And at that same time, I was teaching yoga classes, I was teaching nutrition classes, and I'd advertise them on my little show. And they had a real community, you know. It was just a group of people that were interested in what was going on and wanted to be a part of it.
Do you think today's organic movement and the more conscious crowd draws from that period, the late 60s?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. It had its genesis at that point. You know, as I said, it sowed the seeds, as it were. And a lot of the people who are prominent in the organic movement today are people who started out at that time. So, yeah, I have no doubt at all. And it's gone through different stages, and now there's still a battle going on. Now that it's so popular, it's kind of interesting. It's a battle against the big guys moving into the organic business, keeping the integrity of the movement.
General Mills is buying out some of it.
I don't mind them buying it, because they got smart, but they figured when they bought it originally, they were buying up stuff, and they didn't let them do what they did, which was the reason why they bought them in the first place.
Yeah.
And they figured we better leave them alone. Don't dilute the market. Don't dilute the standard. Let them do what they want. I'm not saying I want everybody to buy up everything, but at least they've learned that the people who are into it are into it. You know, they don't want to accept some phony substitute.
Right.
So
it's pure.
Now we got battles going on. You know, the GMO thing is a big battle. The whole environmental thing obviously is a big part of the consciousness of what's going on. So it's not going to end, but we sure have a lot more allies today than we ever did before. In Congress and everywhere, people are into the whole thing. In fact, it was kind of strange, Alex. Some people criticize the organic movement today because it's too elite. You know, I say, wait a minute, we worked hard to get to this point, and if you buy it, I understand not everybody can, but with whatever disposable income you have, you vote with your dollar. And if you vote to buy something organic, you're voting for farmers and distributors and just the whole ambiance of good, healthy eating and environment.
So these days you do a show on Sirius. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's called Forever Young. We do it with a lady out of Dallas, Texas. You know, with the instruments they got today, the equipment, you could be anywhere and do the show. So we highlight different products that are really good, talk to people who bring evidence. I guess I'm glad you kind of mentioned that to lead me into this whole thing, because now there's so much more evidence to back up what we're doing. And I admit in the beginning there wasn't much in it, other than, like I said,
it was intuition.
That understanding has got to be right. I don't know why, I can't prove it, but it's got to be that way.
Yeah.
And now it's called evidence-based medicine.
Okay.
And there's a lot out there. It's growing all the time.
Isn't it amazing how you turned out to be right back then?
Yeah, come to think of it, you know, I kind of thought it wouldn't be that way. You know what? But here's an interesting thing. Even if it didn't totally turn out that way, I still would have been that way.
Yeah.
That was my path. That was my mission. I knew it, and I just happened to cosmically have all the things in place that allowed me to be somewhat of a broadcaster for that whole thing. I guess an evangelist of sorts.
Right. And you wound up on television, PM Magazine. What a great thing that happened.
I was doing all kinds of stuff. I mean, to go from KZAP with KZAP's audience, and in the same day, I'd go over to KCRA radio, which was definitely not KZAP audience, and then at night do a little television spot. I mean, it was covering a whole bunch of stuff. It was amazing. Think about it. Calling this guy Captain Carrie, and everyone thinks that's cool. It was respectful, actually, you know, and it was like that Captain Carrie guffaw laugh. It was, oh, you're Captain Carrie. Fine.
Now, you must have been on several stations, because when I started at Quad in 1984, my first job was carting up your feeds for Captain Carrot, the daily tips you gave.
We actually did a little syndication thing at the beginning of it. When the new owners, when the guys that I worked under mostly came into KZAP, they started a little syndicated thing. And I know that we got going pretty good. You know, I don't think we knew what we were doing at the time.
Was that on a bunch of stations?
Yeah, especially college stations.
Okay.
I remember some guy telling me up in Chico that they had a Halloween party and some guy came dressed like a parrot.
See what you did?
Yeah. But I'll tell you what was really fun, I'd get letters from all over the place, a lot of them from rural outposts, things. When I first started, I had no idea, what was it called? Star Route. That would be the street name, Star Route. And I got to think, where the heck is Star Route? Well, it turns out that's a rural designation for people who just live outside normal areas and out-of-way places. So I got lots of letters from people up in the foothills and mountains, and every once in a while I'd go on a little pilgrimage. I'd just write them back, say, hey, I'm going to come see you. I'd just pack up and head on up and say hello to people. And that was really a lot of fun. Met a lot of good people, a lot of interesting folks.
Well, you shared a lot of great knowledge, and it's helped change my life. I used to be a junk food junkie, but I'd say now I'm 75% into health food.
When you eat clean, you know, you feel clean. I mean, it's just a different feeling in your body. And once you get that way, I just go, when I don't do it, I don't like the way I feel.
Right.
You know, just
There's
the
a
way it is.
sluggish feeling if you don't keep it up, right? I mean,
Yeah, and it's pretty deceptive, you know. Every once in a while I go back and I try to relive old memories, but I thought things tasted like. Man, it's always a disappointment.
yeah.
Always a disappointment. You eat it for a while and then all of a sudden you say, oh wow, this wasn't right.
What I find is that a lot of people just, because they're not exposed to the television doesn't really expose the best possible foods or best diets. But I found when I eat just a stick of celery, I feel really good after that.
Well, you're right. I mean, when you eat fruits, vegetables, nuts, whatever, I mean, it's a cleaner feeling.
Yeah.
It really is. There's no way around that. But it's kind of interesting watching even the mainstream things, how some of those are changing. There's this one hamburger chain that advertises now grass-fed beef. I mean, come on, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really amazing to think that the movement would be so strong that is something that we just normally just think of as junk food.
Right.
You know, would be really trying to do good. And so there's big stuff going on. Big stuff.
Cary Nosler, thanks for this talk here at Sacramento Music Festival.